Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 260 of this icy yet spicy sports podcast for all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports for your filthy casual fans out there like you and me. In this episode, we're going to take another pause on our 2024 NFL season team recap month, but don't fret, we're going to go right back into it in the very next episode, so stay tuned for that. But for now, we're going to take a pause on it because I wanted to take a trip down to the Old Icebox for another retro review. But this is actually a very special retro review that I've been wanting to do for the longest time. Ever since, I started doing the Old Icebox retro review series here on the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. Because for this retro review, we're going to be taking a trip down to the Wayback Machine, because on this date, 10 years ago, was a particular WWE pay-per-view event. And this was like no ordinary WWE pay-per-view event. This was another WrestleMania. But this is no ordinary WrestleMania. This was WrestleMania 31. And we might be wondering, okay, it's WrestleMania 31. But not to me. Not to me. So, why exactly was that? Well, that's because your boy happened to be at that WrestleMania. So, yeah, on this date, 10 years ago, I went to this WrestleMania. So for all my audio listeners that happen to be listening, I'm holding what's in my hands as I'm speaking. The WrestleMania event t-shirt that I bought 10 years ago down south at Levi Stadium. So, yeah, this is a special retro review that I've been wanting to do for the longest time. And now, here we are 10 years later. Technically 10 years later after I went to WrestleMania to finally talk about it. And yeah, that's exactly what we're going to be doing today in this retro review of WrestleMania 31. And what more can I say about it after having watched it a couple of times since I went to it back in 2015. But we're going to get into all of that here in this special retro review. But before we do all that, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Make sure you follow the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast on social media at Very Cold Lasagna, where it's on the X or Instagram. And for all my audio listeners out there, make sure you rate and review the show and continue to listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's on Apple or Spotify, wherever I'm available at. And for all my YouTube people out there, make sure to smash the like button. And if you're not already, smash that subscribe button. I highly encourage you to do so. And make sure you leave your comments down below on the topic at hand. Your own takes. In this case, it's WrestleMania 31, the 10th anniversary retro review, and what you thought about this particular WrestleMania 10 years later. Can you believe it's already been 10 years since this particular WrestleMania? And we have a lot to say about this WrestleMania. In particular, 31 versus the current WrestleMania that's at hand. So we'll be talking about it. And as always, share this with your friends, share this with your neighbors, share this with whoever's around you, your colleagues at work or at school. Share the good, the bad, the ugly about this filthy casual podcast entitled Very Cold Lasagna. So, that being said, let's talk about this WrestleMania, the 10th anniversary of WrestleMania 31 in our retro review. Your boy, like I said, happened to go to this WrestleMania down south of the Bay. It's like how long of a drive from where I'm at? But anyway, yeah, I went to this 10 years ago. I admittedly did not know this was taking place until I believe 5 or 6 months before it took place. And I didn't buy my tickets until I say about 2 months before WrestleMania happened. So yeah, that's how novice of a of a WWE like first time event goer. I don't know. That's what you call it nowadays, or call it back then, or in general. But I digress. Yeah, this was my first ever like major WWE live event that I was gonna go to. I went to a WWE event before. Long story short, back over a year and a half prior to this, it was basically a house show in Oakland, where the Warriors used to play. It was fun. It was a house show. But this was like a different animal. Clearly, it was like the Super Bowl of wrestling. There's gonna be over 60,000 people at Levi's, and I didn't know what I was gonna be in for. Clearly, at the time. Obviously, now having been to multiple WWE pay-per-views and events, but back then, I didn't know what I was gonna be in for. I did not know what I was gonna be in for at the time, because it was like my first ever real WWE pay-per-view event, and the first one being WrestleMania here in the Bay Area. Like I really didn't know what to expect. So before we get into the event, it's like the match card itself, and my experience with this event, let's get into the little facts about this particular WrestleMania. So this WrestleMania took place on this date, March 29th, 2015. Of course, like I said multiple times already, in my home base of Levi Stadium, home of the San Francisco 49ers, in Santa Clara, California. And this WrestleMania was first announced actually on December 9th of 2013, when Levi's was still under construction when this Mania was announced. And yeah, like I said, at the time I had no idea this WrestleMania was coming until either like I don't know. My memory's like all over the place when I first learned of this. Like I said, like 6 months prior, or like when I watched WrestleMania 30 on the WWE Network. I don't know. I just didn't know like when they first announced it. That's all I remember. But yeah, Levi's like wasn't even done yet when they already announced it. So either way, this was the first and only WrestleMania to take place in the San Francisco Bay Area, and this actually was the first WrestleMania since WrestleMania 21 overall to take place in California. And like I said, this is the first and only WrestleMania, as of right now, to take place in the San Francisco Bay Area. Which speaks to the incompetence of both Triple H, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, TKO overall, the York family, including Jed York, Parag Marathe, the city of Santa Clara, the city of San Jose, the city of San Francisco, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, the entire 49ers organization, the San Jose Sharks, the Golden State Warriors, pretty much the incompetence of everyone in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah, all the three major sports teams, the 49ers, the Warriors, the Sharks. Yeah, pretty much all those cities that have those teams. And it's a damn travesty, too, that WWE and TKO, they haven't brought alone a damn pay-per-view back to the Bay Area since, TLC 2018? That was like the last WWE pay-per-view that I went to. And they still haven't given us, here in the Bay, a real WWE pay-per-view. After we lost, we were supposed to have Extreme Rules 2020. When they announced that, I planned on going to that. But, of course, circumstances got in the way. Understandably so, because COVID happened. The pandemic happened. We lost that. And since then, we still haven't gotten to makeup one. The only thing that we've gotten since then was SmackDowns, Raws, house shows. Like, when's our turn? When is our turn? Again, the closest thing we've gotten to a wrestling pay-per-view here in the Bay Area is AEW. AEW. Like, when even AEW has the bigger grapefruit, for as bad as they are right now, at least 2 years ago, they had the testicle fortitude to bring one of their big four pay-per-views over to San Francisco. bigger than WWE. They have bigger balls to do that. That's a travesty. That's shame on Triple H, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel. That's shame on them. Because WWE fans have been longing. They've been longing to have an actual pay-per-view. Like, we're done with Raws. We're done with SmackDowns. We're done with all these house shows in the Bay. Like, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to have. But I personally like to see a pay-per-view. I personally like to see a pay-per-view back in the Bay. And I'm not sure if they said it at some point in time. Like, Bayley, George Kittle, like all these people, all these wrestling fans that are sports athletes that are here in the Bay Area that are wrestling fans. They love to see a pay-per-view here. They would love to see a pay-per-view here. Yet I don't know why. I don't know why we haven't gotten one yet. We've been asking for another WrestleMania. I've been advocating for a SummerSlam, a Survivor Series. And it's been almost 10 years since the last WrestleMania, the only WrestleMania here in the Bay Area. Yet all the powers in B and WWE, they won't bring it to us. They will not bring it to us for whatever reason. Not even a pay-per-view. Not even a pay-per-view. It also speaks to all the Bay Area cities, the so-called Bay Area Sports Committee. Because while they bring in the NBA All-Star Game, next year's Super Bowl, and those are not, I'll admit, as a sports fan, I love having all those events. But yet, they won't even bother to put in a bid for WrestleMania. They won't even bother to put in a bid for a SummerSlam. They won't even bother to put in a bid for one WWE pay-per-view. Like, come on. I'm starving. I'm sure some other WWE fan out there in the Bay Area, whether it's in San Francisco, San Jose, or whatever city in the Bay, is starving to get a WWE pay-per-view back in the Bay. Because, like I said, I'm not stupid enough to just be content. I'm not stupid enough to just be, complacent with having your typical Monday Night Raws, your Friday Night SmackDowns, and a house show every once a year. That's all we get nowadays. That's all we've been getting for 5 years now. I'm not content with it anymore. I would like to see a pay-per-view back in the Bay Area. I seriously want a pay-per-view back in the Bay Area. It's like, when's our turn, man? When do we get our turn back? Like, seriously. Like, come on. Like, Ari, Triple H, Nick Khan. Like, get something done with Jed York. Go get something done with Kyle Shanahan. I'm kidding on the Kyle Shanahan part. But get something done with Jed York, Parag Marathe, the mayor of Santa Clara, the mayor of San Jose, the SAP Center, Chase Center, you name it. Go get something done with them. So we can finally get something back in the Bay. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. I mean, you've already brought all these pay-per-views back to X, Y, and Z places for the first time forever. Why is it taking it so long to bring a pay-per-view back in the Bay Area? Why? So anyway, with that out of the way, now that I finally got that off my chest, let's get back to the show itself. Because, oh boy, if you want to talk about how shitty this current build to WrestleMania 41 is, look at this WrestleMania build. The road to this WrestleMania 31, this was well known for being one of the worst in its 31-year history. But if you personally ask me, to relive this Mania build to the current one we're seeing now, I will admit to you, like, this Mania build versus the one we're getting now, it's completely night and day. And it's crazy that people were comparing both of these Mania builds to each other, like a month ago or so, and maybe some people still are now, because at least with this bad build that we were getting 10 years ago, Vince was at least trying. Vince McMahon was still at least trying to be creative, with almost each match every single week. And as the event got closer, regardless of how I felt about the build, the anticipation of being able to attend my first ever televised live event, let alone it being WrestleMania, it grew. It grew with anticipation. I was making signs. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the secondary events. I still regret not going to WrestleMania Access, but that's life. You don't know all these events that were going on. But again, for WrestleMania to be my first ever major wrestling event, to be part of, like my younger self, it's like I would have slapped myself across the face, like literally. So we get to the event itself. My anxiety, like we get to the event itself. The shows, we get to the show, we get to Levi's. Like my anxiety was like at an all-time high. It was like my anxiety was at an all-time high, because yeah, like considering that this is your first big event, there's over like 60,000 people inside the stadium compared to when I went to a house show. There's only like a couple thousand. I mean, that's still a lot of people. And I've only been to, well, I mean, I've been to like other big gatherings before then, like a few, but yeah, but this is probably the biggest back then that I've ever been to. So then, yeah, I see all these nice creative things, like people dressed up as Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, some even dressed up as Sting, as we were on the VTA train. And you had all these nice signs. But man, it was pretty hot. It was kind of hot that day. It was like mid 70s, eclipsing to low 80s. Even Michael Cole mentioned it on commentary, even though there was no commentary in the stadium. That's something I learned. That's something I learned that day, that, well, there's no commentary at these actual live stadium events. Like, yeah, you don't get to hear the commentary, pal. So it was me and my bro that went to this WrestleMania. We got there pretty early, about I'd say 2 hours before, because, well, we got breakfast first with our fam, and then we rode the VTA. So the first thing we had to do was take in the scenery of Levi's. It was my first ever time there. I mean, it's still fairly new, so it's pretty much not the same as it was. Oh, it's still kind of the same, but not much really. Now, 10 years later, we got to our seats. It was like the high row, lower bowl. But man, when you look at the atmosphere of WrestleMania itself, it was still people were still filing in, but just to be there, it was just insane. It was still pretty insane overall. To take in the scenery and to take in the stage. Now, when I look at the stage itself, I mean, I wish they were a little bit more creative at the time. I was expecting like a San Francisco, like the Golden Gate Bridge or even the Bay Bridge, to be part of the setup. I'm not sure why they didn't do that. Maybe they didn't have enough space around them. But I did like the YouTube play button thing. I like the YouTube play button on the stage. And then they have the dreaded pillars that everyone likes to complain about. But yeah, I mean, I wish they did a little bit more with the stage, but I couldn't really complain that day. So after we took in the scenery, after we took some pictures, I decided to take a walk around the stadium, see what was around, because I never been to this stadium before. I also went to the team store, because yeah, that was another thing. That was another signature of of Levi's, the 49er team store. They did not have any 49er merch, obviously, that day, but I managed to snag something. I think I got, along with this shirt, I think it was a Page shirt at the time. So yeah, I got that. I also got a pin. Unfortunately, I can't find that pin. It's somewhere. I also got a pin. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice seeing a lot of WWE fans out there. Nice seeing the store. And yeah, it was just nice seeing overall the stadium, and taking it all in. Even when the Niners were going through what ended up being some of the worst 2 seasons after this WrestleMania. Yeah, some dark times indeed after they parted ways with Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, those Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly days that were to follow after this Mania. So yeah, after I got that merch, I finally made it back to my seat with even more time to spare for the pre-show. Yeah, after all this rambling about my pre-show experience, all the pre stuff going into this WrestleMania, we finally get to talk about the show itself, right? We finally get into the show. As the barrier sunshine was still high and bright. So now we can finally talk about the show itself. So we have a pre-show. We have 2 matches on this pre-show. And it started off, the whole show started off with a WWE Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way match. And your participants were Cesaro, the champions, and Tyson Kidd, taking on the Usos, the hometown Usos, Los Matadores, and Big E and Kofi Kingston of the New Day. This match, it was hot again, mid 70s, getting to that low 80s, as the sun again was up and at 'em, still in our face. Like there was no, even if you were in that section, that section that Niner fans that go to Levi's and go to their games, they complain about. Even if you were in that section where the shade was going to cover your ass, yeah, that was not happening here, pal, during this time. At least at that point in the pre-show. Yeah, the sun was everywhere. The sun was everywhere in this pre-show. So it didn't stop us, though. It didn't stop us from seeing what was a nice little overall opener, even if it consisted of tag team jobbers at the time. Jey Uso, though, unfortunately, his hometown his Bay Area homecoming, unfortunately, ended up getting cut short because he hurt his shoulder after being thrown into the barricade by Cesaro, which absolutely sucked, man. It absolutely sucked to see that. So that left Jimmy all alone. And by the way, they were donning the red and gold of the 49ers for their ring gear alongside Naomi. So yeah, Michael Cole, he did mention on the TV feed that he went into this match injured, despite the MRI clearing him. So yeah, that left Jimmy to try and win the titles alone. The fans were liking the chaos in this match, and I was too. And there were some fun spots in this one, like El Torito getting locked to the sharpshooter by Natalya, and even tapping out to the sharpshooter. And then you had the big orgy spot with the double superplex with multiple teams in it towards the end of the match. And then you saw the finish of it with Jimmy Uso thinking he won the match with the Uso splash, but Cesaro tagged him right before he did the Uso splash, and I believe it was on Big E, and he took advantage, threw Jimmy Uso out, and pinned Big E to retain the tag team titles for him and Tyson Kidd. I really like this opener. It warmed everyone up as if we were already warmed up enough already for the day. What was also notable about this match was that even though most of the fans weren't already in their seats yet, the New Day sucks chants that were loud and prominent since they made their debut, well, as a team at least, with Kofi, Big E, and Xavier Woods at the time. Yeah, even though the fans weren't quite in their seats yet, they still rang loudly in this match. And then, of course, that led to the catalyst of their heel turn the next night on Raw. And it was a much needed heel turn because, yeah, people were not liking the New Day. At least the first part of the New Day, with all the clapping and the gospeling. Yeah, they did not like the New Day at all. And yeah, that heel turn the next night on Raw, very much well needed. So yeah, this was a nice opener, but the real action began in the next match with the second annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. In contrast to the previous year in New Orleans, this one was mostly of jobbers. And the only notable participants in this match were Curtis Axel, Kane, Ryback, The Miz, Damian Mizdow, Mark Henry, and The Big Show. Well, but what I will say about this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, Vince McMahon booked some pretty nice subplots going into this battle royale, even though it ended up on the pre-show compared to last year where it was on the main card. So I will give Vince that. And when you look at the subplots going into this match, there was clearly more effort into this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in contrast to 10 years later with what you currently have with the overall card going into this WrestleMania 41 going to Vegas. Like, seriously, there's like absolutely no effort at all. Like, you all remember Axelmania running wild, brother? That's been running wild since the Royal Rumble. Like, what you gonna do with Axelmania running wild on you, and you? And then you had the Miz and Damien Mizdow story reach its climax with the Miz making Damien Mizdow his personal assistant. And everyone was just waiting and waiting for Damien to just finally snap on his quote-unquote mentor or mentee, whatever it is. But anyway. And then you had Ryback. Ryback, by the fans, was the odds-on favorite to win this match. Meanwhile, you have the Big Show. The Big Show, the runner-up from last year's Battle Royale at the time. He got eliminated by Cesaro. He was going to try to redeem himself from the year prior and win it in, I don't know if it was quote-unquote honor or actual honor for Andre the Giant. And you know how there was more effort into this Andre the Giant Battle Royale, more effort than this overall build to this upcoming WrestleMania. There was more build to this Andre the Giant Battle Royale than this current overall WrestleMania. When you had the Monday Night Football analyst at the time, John Gruden. You had John Gruden do his QB quarterback camp to promote this match. He did an actual quarterback camp to promote this match. It was during the pre-show. Like, they even air this in the stadium. I'm like, hello? Like, why am I just finding this out 10 years later? Like, how, like, this was a thing? Like, what? Well, this was a thing that I just found out about? I was like, dude. Dude. Like, this is also a thing I found out. Like, they didn't air the pre-show inside the stadium. Like, you didn't see Renee Young. You didn't see Byron Saxton. You didn't see Corey Graves. You didn't see Booker T. You didn't see them talk about anything. You didn't see them talk about anything. And, like, all you could see was them talking above, like, it was like on the 400th level of Levi's. And then they didn't even put it on the screen. You didn't put it on the screen. And it was the same thing when I went to WrestleMania 39. They didn't put the pre-show on the screen. It's like, why? Why is that a thing that they don't do, like, live in like on pay-per-views, like, for the people that are there? It's just weird. It's just weird that they do that. But seriously, like, these are things that I did not know, like, 10 years later. Like, holy hell. But back to the match itself. Like, it's just so weird. Like, you know, they had Axelmania running wild. And it was even trending at several points after the Royal Rumble and going into this match at Mania. Yet they had Curtis Axel be the first one eliminated. Like, why? Why? Like why did they have like Axelmania run wild and he gets the first to be eliminated? Shame, Vince. Shame. It was a shame 10 years ago, and it's still a shame now. Like, you couldn't have had him make it to the final two. Why didn't you make the final two with the person that we'll be talking about in a little bit? Like, it's a controversial take, but god damn it, we want Axelmania running wild, man. God damn it. So anyway, Ryback was one of the other prominent favorites the crowd was rallying for, but unfortunately, he got eliminated by the Big Show. So the final three came down to The Miz, Damien Mizdow, and the Big Show. And it seemed like the story was going to culminate between the Moneymaker and his personal assistant. But unfortunately, not in the way people expected, because after people got what they wanted, in Mizdow finally turning against his mentor, and eliminating him, it just delayed the inevitable. Because Big Show soon eliminated Mizdow to win the second ever, at the time, Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, to the crowd's displeasure and silence. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Big Show. He was, I don't know. I was kind of neutral. He was like a meme at the time. He was like the person like everyone loved to hate. In 2015, but man, him winning this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, it was like a sad pin drop because we all wanted either WrestleMania to reach the mountaintop, or like I said, make the final two at least. Everyone should have been going after the Big Show and eliminate him. Ryback, they wanted Ryback to win it. They wanted Miz and Mizdow to be in the final two as well, and well, they got neither. Like it should the final, at least let alone the final two should have been Miz and Mizdow to finally culminate their story. Like Big Show could have waited one more year to win this battle royal in Dallas, because well, you look at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas. Baron Corbin didn't do anything with that Andre the Giant battle royale win afterwards, anyways. So I don't know what Vince would have done though with Sandow if he had won the Andre the Giant battle royal, but at least would have began their next feud between Sandow and the Miz, instead of what we ended up getting with Sandow and Axel cosplaying as Hulk Hogan and Macho Man. Yeah, we all remember Macho Mandow and Axel Mania and that jobber tag team before that got dropped because of the whole Hulk Hogan racism stuff that got leaked in July, and they ended up releasing Hulk Hogan. Yeah. So I'll give it this Andre the Giant Battle Royale this. For a Jobber Battle Royale, they actually tried to build it up with multiple subplots. And even during the pre-show, like I said, John Gruden did a QB camp promo on it, which I'm still pissed. They didn't show it inside of the stadium. Like, how could you not do that? How could you not promote that inside, live, within the flesh of Levi's? Why could you air it on the screen before the match? Come on. Come on. This is so easy. Such an easy layup. But unfortunately, Vince had the wrong result in this one. So then, after you had Aloe the Black perform a very beautiful intro of a rendition of America the Beautiful, and then you move on to the cold open with LL Cool J, which showed the past, the present of WrestleMania, which utilized the theme of Silicon Valley, and it ended with the play button, the YouTube play button. And then we got into the intro. Man, that intro is so nostalgic. In the graphics for WrestleMania, it's just it's like a fever. It's like a fever pitch every time. Watching that intro for Mania, it felt great. Although I'll admit, when I didn't know whether we were live or if it was going to something else. I didn't know when we were gonna start. Admittedly, because remember, this was my first televised WWE event. So I didn't know what to expect. Okay, so forgive me. So yeah, we open with that, and then we get to the first actual match of the show, the real opener, and that was the Intercontinental Championship match in a ladder match. And the participants were the champion, Bad News, Wade Barrett, Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley, Stardust, Luke Harper, Dolph Ziggler, and R-Truth. This opening match, and this style of match, which would become a theme for both this WrestleMania and the next. This match actually had a kind of a nice build up towards it, because it actually began with just Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley, and Wade Barrett, because Ambrose lost his IC title match at Fastlane the month prior by disqualification. And then he hit Wade Barrett with the Dirty Deeds DDT, and then stole Wade Barrett's IC title. And he ran away with it. So then a week later, you have the ladder match for the title being announced for WrestleMania. And then they had this month-long story where all the participants that I mentioned, I'm not sure. I don't think Daniel Bryan, he had a turn in stealing the Intercontinental Championship, but nonetheless, all the participants except for Daniel Bryan, they stole the title as a way to stake their claim to this ladder match. Now, Wade Barrett would eventually manage to get the title back before Mania, but some found the setup pretty goofy, I found it to be a rather nice and kind of funny way to build towards this opening contest. So again, going back to my point of, comparing and contrasting this Mania build to the current one we have right now. They're being at least somewhat creative. And we're not even into the next set of matches. We're only onto the opening contest, even though we already done the pre-show technically. But you get my point. We're technically 2.5 matches in, and it already blows WrestleMania 41's upcoming event out of the water when it comes to build. So now let's get into the actual match itself. So we pretty much started off the show the way last year's ended. Daniel Bryan had us yesing inside of the stadium. This last year was the Superdome brother. Now this year was in the red hot sun of Santa Clara inside Levi's, as he made his way out to begin the day's festivities. Bryan was followed by Wade Barrett, Dolph Ziggler, the ass-shaking wonder, the Stardust later turned American Nightmare, Luke Harper, R-Truth, and then you had Dean Ambrose decked out in a leather jacket. I'm not sure why he would do that when it's considerably hot as hell, but he managed to take it off anyway. And then this match began in a frantic and chaotic frenzy, as I remembered it from the start. And there was only a minute or two rest period before it went back to being chaotic, pretty much. Yeah, this was a chaotic. I wouldn't say car crash because there's only a couple of crazy spots, mainly by Dean Ambrose, because he took almost all the punishment in this match, doing two of the match's biggest spots, with the big elbow drop from a 16-foot ladder, and then towards the end of the match, getting taken out of the match, being put through a ladder by Luke Harper with a power bomb. Ugh, that was nasty. And you wonder, no wonder, this man loves pain so much. Just look at the most recent stupid spot that he had on I think it was the last week's episode of Dynamite. Yeah, that spike spot. Ugh. But anyway, there are some other spots that I remembered seeing, like Wade superplex to Stardust off the top of the ladder, and then the zigzag that took out Luke Harper. But then you had some other nice spots, like R-Truth spin kick on Luke Harper on a ladder that I pretty much overlooked. So mostly everyone shined in this match, which is surprising given that R-Truth didn't really do all that much. That even though commentary was pretty much playing up Truth's fear of ladders a lot in this one, and it kind of sucked that R-Truth didn't really do a lot. And I just wish he did a little bit more. But I did like the finish of this match, which played into the story of the desperation of Wade Barrett trying to keep his title, taking out Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, and Stardust with the bullhammer. And Barrett was about to win this match, but he was taken out by Daniel Bryan with the running knee. And the final two came down to just Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler on top of the ladder. And they went into a headbutt war. And Bryan managed to outlast Dolph Ziggler to claim the Intercontinental title as WrestleMania ran wild for the second straight year. Only this time, WrestleMania opened compared to last year, where it ended. And yeah, it was a fun opening contest. It was a fun opening contest. There's a lot of crazy, chaotic spots. Probably the biggest spot of the match, obviously, was Dean Ambrose getting put through that ladder, that wedged ladder by Luke Harper, which was still nasty as hell. But I mean, obviously not as nasty as yeah, that's about 10 years later on Dynamite. But anyway, and obviously, yeah, the big Yesel celebration at the end with Daniel Bryan winning the Intercontinental title. It's just unfortunate, though, that the run was cut very short due to what ended up being concussion issues that led to Daniel Bryan's first retirement at the time. But, I mean, still, Daniel Bryan at least managed to get 2 straight Mania title victories, both at the end and the start of WrestleMania. So, yeah, I couldn't knock that. I really couldn't knock that. It was a very, very nice way to open the show, and served as another appetizer of what we're gonna get. So next up, we had Randy Orton, the Viper, take on Seth Rollins. This match, it had been building up since late October. Probably out of all the matches, this had the longest build up, and that's what I miss about these recent WrestleManias. Like matches that have like much longer history, like actual acknowledged open long history on TV. And yeah, when you compare it to 10 years earlier, Randy Orton and Seth Rollins fits the bill. So this one has been building up since late October, when these two former Authority allies, they were at odds right before Hell in a Cell and then after Hell in a Cell, because Randy Orton got a bit jealous over Triple H and Stephanie McMahon being biased, showing some favoritism towards Seth Rollins as the future of WWE, and this increasing frustration reaching a boiling point when Randy Orton attacked Seth Rollins during the Intercontinental title match on Raw, and he demanded and received a match with Seth Rollins on that same night. So Seth would win that match, and that led to Randy Orton attacking the entire Authority minus Triple H. Before Seth Rollins curb stomped him on the announce table, Triple H told him to finish off Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins curb stomped Randy on the steel steps, ousting Orton from the Authority. And Randy Orton was written off for a couple months. So Orton would return a few months later at the Fastlane pay-per-view to attack the Authority, but Seth Rollins would run away like a little weasel. And yeah, that set the stage for what was going to be an eventual WrestleMania match, because to get there, over the next 3 weeks after Fastlane, Randy Orton would fake rejoin the Authority to better time his attack, plan out his attack on Seth Rollins. And just before you knew it, Orton would strike 3 weeks later with a brutal attack on Seth Rollins on Raw after a handicap match, and intentionally costing him and Orton said handicap match before challenging Seth to a match at WrestleMania on SmackDown, which Seth accepted a couple days later on Raw. So, yeah, this match, it was pretty much a cool down from the opening match car crash with the ladder match. But I will say, still a very good match once it got into the second gear midway through. The first half, it was, kind of slow. Everyone was still trying to get their bearings from the craziness of the first match. And yeah, once we got into that second half, I feel like it got much better. And another part that I overlooked when watching this live in the crowd was when Orton was making this comeback, and then Seth Rollins seemed to have stopped it, and he tried to go for the curb stomp. Randy Orton countered it into a power slam, and I thought that was very, very cool. I thought that was a very nice counter. Now, obviously, all of us in that 70-degree heat in the sun, we were all just waiting for Randy Orton to hit the RKO on Seth Rollins and, get the victory. And we got the RKO out of nowhere from Randy Orton on Seth Rollins. But everyone was shook. Everyone was like, what the hell? Seth Rollins kicked out of that one? So yeah, Seth Rollins kicked out of an RKO. Everyone was like gasping, like, what the hell? So yes, Randy Orton kicked out. And then, yeah, he tried to go for the punt, but then in came J&J security to take some sacrificial RKOs from Randy Orton. But that allowed Seth Rollins to hit the curb stomp. But then Randy Orton kicked out. And Seth is wondering, like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? Like, how the heck am I supposed to win this match? And then you get to the photo finish. You get to the photo finish that everyone remembers to this day. Everyone remembers 10 years later. Seth Rollins tries for the Phoenix Splash. I believe he only hit that thing like once. And that was 2 months earlier at the Royal Rumble. Like, did he ever hit? I don't think he ever hit that thing like cleanly since then. But anyways, that's another side note. So he tries to go for the Phoenix Splash. Randy Orton dodges it, and he tries to hit an RKO, but Seth counters it. And then we see the big WrestleMania moment from this match. Seth tries to hit a final curb stomp, but then he gets lifted up high up in the air, and then bam, RKO. He gets lifted up for a WrestleMania worthy RKO, and I was like, what the hell? We were all like, what the hell? Did Randy Orton just do that? And I think even Randy Orton didn't know what to think. He's like, ah, yeah. I was like, what? Oh yeah, I did that. And then Randy Orton would get the 1, 2, 3 and score the victory. So, man, what a crazy moment that was. What a crazy finish that was. And the second half of this match was really damn good. And obviously the RKO spot will always be remembered. Probably the highlight of this match. Easily by far. But while Randy Orton got the victory, the night wasn't over for Seth Rollins. And in actuality, he would get the last laugh on that Santa Clara night. But why would that be? Well, we'll talk about that much later in this retro review. So now we move on to the third match of this Daylight WrestleMania. And that was the big match, one of the big matches that everyone had been waiting for. And that was Triple H, the Game, versus the Icon, Sting. People have been waiting in anticipation for Sting finally having his first match, even though it was long overdue. His first ever match in WWE. So how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point with Sting finally making his long overdue WWE arrival? Well, we turn back the clock to the 2014 Survivor Series. That pay-per-view that I did a retro review on back in November when I refused to do a War Games review of the current Survivor Series. But yeah, shameless plug, by the way. So anyway, Sting made his long overdue WWE debut at the 2014 Survivor Series in the main event, attacking Triple H and helping Dolph Ziggler pin Seth Rollins to win the match for Team Cena and put the Authority out of power. Well, at least temporarily. Because, well, John Cena decided to be a dumbass and give in to Seth's demands, or else Seth would break Edge's neck at the end of the year. So anyway, 2 months later, Sting would reappear at the end of Raw before the 2015 Royal Rumble to help Cena beat the Authority in a handicap match. So after that happened, Triple H challenged Sting to a face-to-face at Fastlane. So at Fastlane, Triple H offered to do business thing with WWE Network endorsements, a spot in the Hall of Fame, and all the good stuff that Sting could not somehow not happen to refuse. But the Stinger didn't want that. The Icon went back down. He went back down from any of those good stuff. Did I say back down? No, he didn't want all that stuff. He wouldn't take all that. So Triple H was pissed off. He was mad. Triple H attacked the Stinger and tried to go for his signature sledgehammer. But Sting was ready. Sting had his signature baseball bat, and he trapped Triple H in the corner, and he used the signature baseball bat to challenge in silence Triple H to a match at WrestleMania, before he countered another attack with the baseball bat and a Scorpion Death Drop. And yeah, that's pretty much how we got here. So the match was official for WrestleMania, and the next month saw the reasoning for both men wanting to win this match. Triple H wanted to kill the last remaining bit of WCW, and while he had Sting, wanted to take Triple H out of power and give the power back to the people. So, and also not making it about WCW. And unfortunately, while they for as much as they did want to make it about WCW, well, as soon as Triple H mentioned WCW, yeah, you knew there's going to be some kind of WCW involvement in this matchup, like some Monday Night War crap in this matchup. But we'll talk about it when we get to that point in the match. But when we got to this match live in the flesh, like the crowd was buzzing for Sting's WWE debut. He was accompanied by, I believe, it was a taiko band that did this like entrance for him, and they played along to his theme song. And just to see Sting in person, and just to be there for his WWE debut, his first and unfortunately only WrestleMania, but still, it was surreal. It was absolutely surreal to just think of the fact that at the time, Sting being at WrestleMania, and for WrestleMania to be his debut match. And then you had Triple H. Triple H coming in as the Terminator. Even getting Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, well, obviously, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame that year, but still, he even got Arnold Schwarzenegger to play the game. As he and Arnold did this special entrance and little shameless promotion to promote the then upcoming Terminator Genesis film, which did pretty badly, unfortunately. But still, badass entrance by Triple H. Another classic Triple H entrance. And I mean that in a good way. Because that was a pretty nice entrance. They started off strongly, but unfortunately, this match slowed to a major crawl. And of course, Triple H reign of terror fashion. Like, why is Triple H always gotta make his matches like slow as hell? I mean, I don't want it to be like Bucks of Suck, like indie style, fast pace, but it's just like, goddamn, like pick up the pace. All these like long ass headlocks he's got to do. It's like, pick up the pace a little bit, man. So then things got really interesting. And I don't know if I could say that in a good way or a bad way, but it picked up at a really interesting yet kind of strange way. And then it woke us up. And I was like, I saying to myself, like, what the fuck is happening as well? And once that happened, once Sting locked in, he rallied back and locked in the Scorpion Deathlock on Triple H. And then when we heard Break It Down, dun, 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 and we saw the DX graphics on the stage, then yeah, we're about to go into the Monday Night Wars. We're about to go into the time machine and yeah, unlock the Monday Night Wars. So yeah, DX first came out to stop Sting, and then eventually we heard the NWO music. So here comes Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. They came out to even the playing field with Sting. And well, it was cool. It was a cool visual to see DX go up against NWO. Like, at the time, I was like, what is happening right now? This is actually pretty cool to see. But, at the same time, having rewatched this a year, 2 years, multiple times later, this is a clear logic gap. There are so many logic holes in this one. Like, even Michael Cole mentioned it. Like, even Michael Cole mentioned how logically flawed this was, because Michael Cole mentioned Sting and the NWO had a lot of beef with each other. They were enemies with each other so much. Like, I was questioning, with all the rewatches, why was the NWO helping Sting when they fought each other so much? When they were for most of the time, never allies with each other. Like the NWO white and the black and white was never helpful to Sting. Like why? Like what's going? Like why is this happening? Like why are they all of a sudden helping Sting in this so-called Monday Night War revisited? I don't know. It was so strange. But anyway, I guess just that day just became fuck logic mode. It was just literally fuck logic. But anyway, we were witnessing the NWO, DX, Triple H, Sting, and then you had Shawn Michaels who hit Sweet Chin Music on Sting, all in one match. It was literally a trip back to the late 1990s. We were all reliving the Monday Night Wars, or at least if you were, you never relived it, you were seeing it in the flesh, just with a bunch of old dudes. But the end of this match saw Triple H and Sting each have their signature weapons. Like I said, the sledgehammer and the baseball bat, and Sting broke the sledgehammer in half, and everyone thought, oh, the game is about to die. And this is where the finish still remains stupid to this day. Sting looked poised to finish off Triple H with the flurry, and he stinger splashed Triple H in the corner. And then when I saw the replay of this, I knew this was going to be very, very fucked up. Like Triple H, when he got stinger splashed the first time, he had enough time to recover to grab the half of the sledgehammer that had the actual hammer on it. So Sting was giving him time to grab that, and then when he went for the second stinger splash, he got hit with the sledgehammer, and that ended the match. Triple H pins him to win it, and why did they have to do that? Why did Vince have to do him dirty like that? I was like, that wiped the excitement and the energy out of the crowd. And this was basically what JBL had described all match. The last remaining burial of WCW. Like, even though as if it needed any more burying. Like, Sting's arrival, it should have felt more important. Like, Sting, he should have won this match. Like Sting was presented like a big deal when he first arrived, even though it's long overdue. He felt like a big deal. Finally coming to the WWE, and he should have won this match against Triple H. But yet, here he was losing this match. It is so stupid. It was so stupid then, and it's so stupid. It's still stupid now. And the fact that they shook hands, giving all that mutual respect to each other, it was so dumb. It was so dumb. And then he went on to lose. He went on to lose to Seth Rollins. And then during that match, he had a back injury that forced him into retirement until I think it was 2021, where he was able to come back. That was terrible, man. That a terrible finish to a pretty good match to see live in the flesh. That's stupid. Like this match, the ending to this match was very, very stupid, in my opinion. Like, I absolutely hated it. I still hated it then, like I said, and I hated it now. We're moving on. So then, after the terrible finish that we witnessed, the WWE, they tried to wash it out of our mouths with a couple of segments. You had former Intercontinental champions with the likes of Bret Hart, Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and then for some reason Ron Simmons was there, rating Daniel Bryan's interview with then E-News host Maria Menounos. Yeah, you all remember Maria Menounos. She even had a WrestleMania match prior to this one. But yeah, they all rated Daniel Bryan's interview, and then you had a live performance from multi-platinum singers Skylar Grey and Kid Ink performing the WrestleMania theme songs, which one of them was actually a pretty solid WrestleMania theme song, by the way. So yeah, they did all this to try and get the stink out of that stupid finish from the last match before we move on to the next match. Now, I was debating through this time to whether to go to the restroom and get a snack during the live concert portion. But I don't know. Like, I wasn't really sure what to do during this time. Do I just stay and watch through the whole thing? Or should I just like go up and use the restroom? I don't know. It's like, again, I was like a novice. I was a novice during this time when it came to attending these shows. And I guess I still am now. Because, you know, my instinct tells me like I might miss something important. I might miss something important during these things. So, yeah, I guess I think I remember just staying to watch, even though it was just a live performance portion. But yeah. But then we move on to the next match, and that was a Divas match, a Divas tag team match involving AJ Lee and Paige taking on the Bella Twins. Another filler match, but there was a little bit of backstory behind it, because Paige had been feuding with the Bella Twins since the start of 2015, with Paige losing a tag team match at the Royal Rumble, a title match against Nikki Bella at Fastlane, and then of course we had the very infamous, I believe it was 26 seconds or like minutes, is a very short tag team match with Natalya, Paige, and the Bellas that resulted in the hashtag Give Divas a Chance. Yeah, y'all remember that hashtag 10 years ago? Yeah, that movement that happened. And that even resulted in a very big tweet from AJ Lee to Stephanie McMahon. So the next week, after that Give Divas a Chance movement began, Paige beat Nikki in a rematch for the Divas title by disqualification after Brie attacked Paige, and the Bells kept attacking her until AJ Lee returned from injury to save her. So, yeah, Paige returned the favor for AJ days later on SmackDown in AJ's return match, and a win over Brie by attacking Nikki Bella. And that set up this tag team match for WrestleMania. So Paige and AJ had their intertwined yet frenemy history that spanned back to almost a year by that point from last year's Raw after WrestleMania. And now here they are, full circle, slated to team up against, well, a common enemy, that being the Bellas. So, yeah, this was basically another cool-down match from the match prior, and another attempt to get that stupid finish that was Triple H versus Sting. But to be honest with you, you know, during this time period, I couldn't really complain about it, even though the crowd was just pretty much, you know, doing their stuff, doing their thing. I mean, I couldn't really complain during this time, given that AJ, Paige, Nikki Bella, they're my thing. I admit it. I was a AJ, Paige, and Nikki guy. They're my gals back then. They're my gals back then. So, I mean, I really couldn't complain. I really couldn't complain much. But as for the match itself, it was pretty substandard, I guess. It was basically what we saw at the Royal Rumble, but I guess a little bit slightly, but not really much better quality, because it's just the Bellas basically dominating Paige during this match. They kept taking AJ out of it, whether the Bellas did it or Paige did by accident. And I don't know, it's just funny. I just found it funny that the cameras kept hilariously cutting to AJ taking naps outside every time she got taken out. I'm like, what are you trying to do to AJ, man? Like, why do you keep cutting to her taking a nap? Like a dirt nap outside the ring. Like, bro, what are you doing? What was Kevin Dunn doing? But anyway, Paige eventually managed to get the tag on to AJ, and the crowd finally came to life as the unlikely duo overcame the tactics of the Mean Twins as AJ tapped out Nikki with the Black Widow submission. And yeah, the good girls, the good frenemies, got the win. Not much else to say from a crowd perspective, but it kind of sucks that AJ elected to retire 2 days later, because had she stayed, she would have went after Nikki for the Divas title, because technically she did tap out the Divas champion. Although, you know, from a perspective though, there really wasn't much for AJ to do going forward. And you know, it kind of sucks at the time. I believe she was only like 28. Like, she was pretty young still, I believe. Because, what, AJ's like, I don't know, in her late 30s or something, or early 40s right now. And at the time, she was relatively young. She was relatively young when she retired in 2015. But she pretty much accomplished all she did back then. Like, there really wasn't much more for her to do in a women's division that didn't really have a lot of life to it, especially given that the wave of women that were coming later in the year with Becky, Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley. I mean, there wasn't really much else. And I know that she's adamant about staying retired these days. But damn, could you imagine? Could you imagine a dream bout between her and another certain Jersey girl that's currently running rampant in the women's division with her daddy Dom? Come on, AJ. Just one match? Just one match? With that certain Jersey girl at SummerSlam? It's in Jersey. It's in East Rutherford, in the big blue and the gang green side of New York, New Jersey. You know, you gotta live large for one more match. So anyway, after this, we had ourselves a Hall of Fame Class of 2015 showcase. They showcased this Hall of Fame class at the time to the people that couldn't attend the ceremony the night before in San Jose. One of those people, including me, because I didn't know they had these things back then. Like, I was that naive. I was that young and that naive. Those included were the first recipient of the Warrior Award, that being in honor of the Ultimate Warrior. The first recipient was Connor the Crusher McCallick, and then the other Hall of Fame recipients were Rikishi, Kevin Nash, who was the headliner, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So yeah, we got to see them on stage being honored, and that was pretty cool to see. So then we had our next matchup of the evening, and that involved the United States champion Rusev taking on John Cena. This was honestly another good match to witness in the flesh, but how did we get here? Well, let's talk about it. So this is a feud that started after the Royal Rumble had just ended. Rusev got into a confrontation with John Cena. Cena was being asked about what was next for him after losing the WWE Championship match against Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins. And then Rusev, who had just been the runner-up to Roman Reigns, he got into it with Cena. So that made a U.S. Championship match for Fastlane, and Rusev beat Cena by technical knockout, although with some assistance from his manager, Lana. That allowed Rusev to kick Cena in the dick in a desperate attempt to lock in his finishing submission, the Accolade, and pass him out. So due to this controversial finish, Cena challenged Rusev to a rematch at WrestleMania for the next few weeks, but Rusev kept saying, no, you don't deserve it. He had nothing left to prove, and even he had the Authority member, Stephanie McMahon, backing up Rusev's decision, unless Cena could prove Rusev wrong. So you had Rusev insulting America on an episode of Raw, and that enraged John Cena. He attacked Rusev, and he kept locking in the STF on him until Lana gave in and granted Cena's title rematch at WrestleMania. So the final 2 weeks of this build saw Rusev and Cena engaging in a battle of USA versus Russia. And Rusev overpowered Cena on the Go Home show 6 days before, but it also planted the seeds for the eventual split between Rusev and Lana. So that was something to keep an eye on going into this match as well. So yeah, the match was, I thought the match was okay. It was very solid, but man, the entrance of Rusev was so damn good. Like, it was so hard to see though, from where I was sitting on like the 100, like one of the 100 sections, but I was on the high row. It was so hard to see from where I was because obviously you had that big ass canopy screen, and you can't see like where Rusev was entering from, other than seeing it on the screen. And then you saw that Rusev was on a tank. He was on a goddamn tank. And then you had these Russian cannons on stage. They were all firing, and like, my God, this man's insane. This man is insane. And then you had Lana being marching down the ring with all these Russian soldiers with the Russian flag. It's like, man, they went all out for this entrance. Like, it was like a very badass entrance, like one of the best WrestleMania entrances I ever seen. But again, it was just like so hard to see, like all the way from there. Like, you couldn't even see the tank from where I was sitting. Like, this is where his Russian gimmick really peaked. But it still remains one of my favorite WrestleMania entrances ever. Meanwhile, you had John Cena playing a video package to rally America, F yeah, together. But man, once the video package was done, once everyone was, rallying together for America, Levi's was loud as hell. And booing John Cena, chanting, "John Cena sucks! John Cena sucks!" Like, because, yeah, it was the fun thing to do back then, and sadly, I'll admit, I was one of those people to do that participated in that. I'm not afraid to say it. Even though I was a John Cena, I was a Cena fan. Like, not the biggest hardcore Cena fan, but I was a Cena fan. But I sadly must admit that I was one of those people that got into the Cena sucks chants just to see what it was like. Unfortunately, but yeah, just like with the Randy Orton and Seth Rollins match earlier, this match was kind of plotting, because it's basically Rusev dominating Cena for a lot of this match, and stopping Cena's momentum, like whenever he tried to rally, because Rusev was always like 2 steps ahead of him to stop him. But yeah, the crowd was just waiting for the next major moment to happen. But just like with the Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins match, I really liked the last several minutes of it. It really picked up. You even saw Rusev and Cena pull out moves at the time that they didn't even do. Like Rusev doing a flying headbutt, Cena doing the Cena stunner, before the Cody Cutter was a thing. So yeah, Cena was doing a lot of moves that he normally wouldn't do in 2015. He was like pulling out all the tricks. Maybe because he knew his full-time run was about to end. Just a year or two later. Then the hat tricks were done. And Rusev eventually managed to lock in the accolade. But the fans were cheering hard for Rusev to make Cena pass out again. But Cena learned his lesson from Fastlane. He managed to break it and trap Rusev in a second STF. He did it before the first time, but Rusev managed to escape. But before Rusev could cause a rope break, this is where we saw the finish. Cena dragged him back to the middle of the ring, and he was about to lock it in again, but Lana got on the apron to cause a distraction. But that distraction proved costly, as Cena dodged a running Rusev, and Rusev took out Lana from the apron, and Cena took advantage, hit the attitude adjustment to beat Rusev, end his undefeated streak, and win the United States Championship for America. F yeah. So, yeah. I'd say it's a very solid match, but again, the first half was just a bit of a slog. It was a bit of a slog, but it did its job to build up to the eventual anticipation of Cena eventually persevering and getting his redemption from the Fastlane loss, in typical Cena fashion, once we got to that final act. Also to note, the fans that were booing Cena and chanting "John Cena sucks" during his entrance were either the same ones cheering for him by the end of it, or they were just like dead silent. They're like, damn, he really did that, huh? Yeah, damn hypocrites. And mainly I was one of them, unfortunately. But I do feel for Rusev in a way, though, because this run he had since he was on the main roster, this is pretty much his peak. Because after that, it was all downhill from there, other than the Rusev Day stuff 2 years later. But yeah, I do feel for him in a way. I do feel for Rusev in a way. But at least after this, we did get the John Cena Open challenges after this, which were nice to see. But, this match, seeing it live, I thought it was solid, but yeah, I wish it picked up a little bit at the beginning, but still a nice match. So after this, we had Stephanie McMahon and Triple H in the ring to announce the attendance for this WrestleMania. It was at 76,976, which at the time was a attendance record for the then new Levi Stadium, which obviously was disputed by Dave Meltzer, which he always loves to do for WrestleMania. But then the attendance record was broken years later by an Ed Sheeran concert of 80,000. I wonder if Dave Meltzer disputed that as well. But anyway, yeah, at the time it was an attendance record for a Levi Stadium, and then yeah, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H would then gloat about their success of WrestleMania and Triple H beating Sting earlier in the night, and then we get our a very big surprise for us in attendance and for all the people watching at home, because if you're some man, what The Rock was cooking, because The Rock surprisingly showed up out of nowhere to return to his real home of the East Bay. Did you know The Rock was born in Hayward? Yeah, he was an East Bay boy, as he said in the promo. The Rock returned to his real home of the East Bay with a message to let the authority know that they don't own The Rock, they don't own the people own each other. So yeah, The Rock makes this surprise appearance. I was completely shook. Everyone was completely shook. Like getting The Rock in the flesh for my first WrestleMania, for my first real live event. That's a gift in itself. That was a gift in itself. So yeah, and you get this long back and forth. And Stephanie ends it by slapping The Rock in the face for joking about Stephanie's existence. But yeah, Stephanie orders The Rock to get out of her ring. And during this, funnily enough, the crowd was already chanting for a certain UFC Women's Bantamweight champion at the time. Before Rocky approached that certain UFC Women's Bantamweight champion. And that happened to be one Ronda Rousey. The Rock brings in Ronda Rousey back to the ring, and another long back and forth ensues where Stephanie tried to, kiss up to Ronda. But then she kept running her mouth and demanded to have her go back to her seat to be a fan. But Ronda was giving her the killer look. And she even told Stephanie to, if you wanted me to leave, then make me. So then The Rock, after another few minutes of back and forth from Stephanie and The Rock finally decided to throw hands at Triple H. And then after laying the smackdown on Triple H, he even got arm dragged by Ronda Rousey, to the surprise and the joy of the crowd. And then Stephanie got threatened to get her arm broken by Ronda before being let go. The Triple R's, Rock, Ronda, and Ronda Rousey, they stood tall to end the segment, to the joy of the crowd. And yeah, this was a segment that I didn't really expect, but it was like, this is fun to watch. But, looking back on it though, it went on a little longer than expected, but I can't really complain. I couldn't care less, because like I said, seeing The Rock live in person, it's a gift in of itself. And Ronda Rousey was at the height of her popularity at the time. During this point in time. And this segment also happened to serve as a tease to what eventually was going to come for Ronda Rousey's WWE debut 3 years later. And it also made me wonder, rewatching the segment, was this supposed to be Ronda's actual debut match at the following WrestleMania in Dallas? Or if The Rock was supposed to be her partner at WrestleMania 34 instead of Kurt Angle? I mean, it's just a thought, just for food for thought. But I thought that was an interesting thought that I had. But I loved everything about this segment. I loved seeing The Rock there, Ronda Rousey kicking ass on both Triple H and Stephanie. That was some good stuff there. But yeah, it left me wondering, if this was a tease, if this was supposed to be a tease for Ronda's eventual tag team match for whether it's for next year's that next year's WrestleMania, or the match that did end up happening, just not with Kurt Angle as her partner. So after that, we had the return of The Undertaker as he took on the new face of fear, Bray Wyatt. After letting the fans simmer down a bit, we have to talk about this match, because to set up this match, Bray Wyatt ran a series of mysterious promos that culminated in Wyatt calling out The Undertaker, who had been seen since losing to Brock Lesnar the year prior at WrestleMania 30, where he lost his 21-0 undefeated streak. So Bray Wyatt challenged The Undertaker to a match at this particular WrestleMania. So in the lead up to this match, Wyatt continued his series of mysterious messages, calling himself the new face of fear, until Undertaker accepted his challenge by setting Wyatt's rocking chair on fire with a bolt of lightning. Now, there have been obviously questions leading up to that match about how Undertaker would look, how Undertaker would perform, since given the last time he wrestled in the ring at WrestleMania 30, not exactly good, especially at the point of the match where he got concussed in his match with Lesnar. His performance got considerably worse, and yeah, it was pretty alarming. It was pretty alarming, when he lost that match. So when it comes to this match itself, there have always been many comments back then and to this day about the entrances of both Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker. And why was that? The entrances being in broad-ass Santa Clara sunlight. People were actually complaining about both of their entrances being in daylight. Well, I'm here to tell you, what the hell were you expecting? What were you expecting? Sure, it was weird. It was certainly weird to see Bray and The Undertaker's entrances in daylight. And the sun was almost about to go away. It was golden hour or something at the time. I believe it was 7 o'clock, 6:30 or 7 o'clock when that match happened in California. But I didn't mind it. Don't you remember that Undertaker had a daylight entrance back at WrestleMania 9? Hell, if you want to be more recent times, Finn Balor, yes, Finn the Pin Balor, had a daytime entrance not just long ago, 2 years ago, down south at SoFi Stadium at WrestleMania versus Edge. Why aren't you all complaining about that? Why aren't you all complaining about Finn Balor's demon entrance being in the daylight in SoFi Stadium? Hello. It's y'all are weird. Seriously, y'all are weird. So when it comes to whether The Undertaker still had it in him after missing a year and his streak ended at the time, he kind of did. He was still rough around the edges. He was still kind of slow. But granted, he was performing past his prime, but he was still all right. And yeah, well, I was glad to see The Undertaker back that night, and just glad to see The Undertaker in general in the flesh. This is a very slow moving match that, with the US title match, I was just waiting for the next major moment. I understood the story of the match, which was whether or not The Undertaker still had one more match in him, but it just felt too slow. Just felt too slow to get to the point. Bray Wyatt was doing a majority of the offense, but Bray Wyatt was just moving the match, was just leading the match at a snail's pace. It's get to the point. You had to have a couple minutes to get to the point. I think the runtime for this match was 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes too long. Shave that by 5 minutes. Shave that by 5 minutes. And again, I'm not complaining because it went by kind of fast, but still, it's 5 minutes too many. You could have this match capped it at 10, minus the entrances though. But the highlight of this match was the photo of the spider walk and the sit up. Bray Wyatt doing the spider walk, Undertaker doing the signature sit up. That was probably the biggest highlight of this match. Everyone was like, whoa, that just happened. And then Undertaker won this match, reversing Sister Abigail and finishing off Bray Wyatt with one more Tombstone Pile Driver to rebound from last year's WrestleMania, at the time, obviously, to go 22-1 at WrestleMania. So yeah, this was one of those matches that I was like, yeah, nice match to witness in person, but watching it back was like, eh. But again, nice to see The Undertaker wrestle, even if it was past his prime. But yeah, witnessing his entrance in person, a very nice sight to see. So now we finally get to the main event. We finally get to the main event of this very first WrestleMania I got to witness live in person, and that was the WWE Champion Brock Lesnar versus the big dog Roman Reigns. This is not the tribal chief Roman Reigns. This is the big dog that everyone loved to hate at the time, Roman Reigns. And this is probably one of the most controversial main event WrestleMania matches in history for all the wrong reasons. And why do I say that? Well, there's a variety of reasons. This is because the loud internet fans out there, whether it was at the Royal Rumble, Fastlane, every SmackDown and Raw, leading up to this WrestleMania, they loudly rejected Roman Reigns in every turn. But it all started at the Royal Rumble. They rejected Roman Reigns that year in a cruel, ironic twist from a year prior. Like, everyone in that 2014 Royal Rumble, when it came down to Roman and Batista, they wanted Roman to win. They didn't want Batista to win. They wanted Roman, for some reason, Roman Reigns to win that Royal Rumble. But then here we are, a year later, in 2015, they didn't want Roman Reigns to win that match. Like, they wanted Daniel Bryan to win. When Daniel Bryan already had his WrestleMania moment that the fans hijacked, the fans interjected their way into, by the way, into that main event. And yeah, here they are. They wanted Daniel Bryan to win it. So Roman Reigns, he wins the Royal Rumble, but the fans shat on that, and they shat on Roman Reigns being endorsed by The Rock in Philadelphia. So another reason why the buildup was pretty bad was because Brock Lesnar was barely there to help build up this match. And that gave very little for Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman to work with to try and create hype for this world title main event. All they could pretty much do was promo. Roman Reigns, competes in a match to, get himself ready for WrestleMania. And that's pretty much it. And when Lesnar was there in person, he only confronted Roman Reigns twice, which was the night after the Royal Rumble when they were at the WWE headquarters due to a severe snowstorm that prevented the WWE from doing Raw where they were supposed to be. I'm not sure where it was at the time, but I digress. And then you had that ending shot in Los Angeles 6 days before WrestleMania. You had the infamous go home shot of the two playing tug of war. Yeah, like they're in kindergarten playing tug of war with the WWE Championship. That photo frame of them playing tug of war. Oh, Vince. Oh, man. It's like Vince, Brock, and Paul, they didn't maximize the time that Brock Lesnar had when he was when he was around, like for that build. So basically, the story was pretty much what we're currently seeing with Jey Uso versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight title for this particular WrestleMania, being 41. And with this one for 31, and that was whether or not Roman Reigns could and would beat Brock Lesnar. You all remember that t-shirt. You all remember that tagline. I can, I will, believe that. And over the next 2 months, you would see a lot of people doubt Roman Reigns. You would see Mark Henry doubt Roman Reigns. And that would lead to a beatdown from Roman and spear him to the barricade. And that would earn earned the respect of Mark Henry to Roman Reigns. So yeah, you had all these people doubting Roman Reigns. That led to that t-shirt, that tagline, I can, I will. So for many in the IWC at the time, it seemed like a surefire guarantee that despite the rejection that they were giving Roman, it seemed like a guarantee that Roman would beat Brock Lesnar. Even if Lesnar had re-signed a new deal 5 days prior to WrestleMania, even though they played into the storyline that Lesnar's contract was going to expire. But yeah, it seemed like everyone was just waiting for the inevitable, that Roman Reigns was going to be crowned the new WWE champion at WrestleMania inside of Levi's. So here we are at the main event as the sun rose down in Santa Clara and the video package was done playing for this match. Oh boy. You felt like you were in prison. You felt like I don't know what it felt like. It was like a weird feeling. But people were really angry. It was like a very hostile environment when Roman Reigns music started playing. Like the boos were like at a jacked up level. Like I have never heard before. Like not even the boos from when I went to WrestleMania 39 years later for Logan Paul was that bad. Not like it wasn't even Logan Paul level bad. Like the people's hatred for Roman Reigns, it was so bad in 2015. Like it was so deafeningly loud that I like had Roman Reigns won. Like I think he wouldn't have made it out of Levi Stadium. I think like they would have burned down the newly minted Levi Stadium by the end of that night if he had won. So Roman Reigns made his way down to a very hostile Levi Stadium, surrounded by security. Maybe that's why they changed up his entrance at the end of the year. Meanwhile, the crowd was hot for Brock Lesnar, as his entrance was full of pyro. He had Paul Heyman personally introduce him. And then you get into the match. 30 seconds in, Brock Lesnar seemed like he was already going to win this match. Imagine a 30-second main event WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar suplex, an F5 Roman, and the crowd ate it up like instantly. And you thought the match was going to end Kofi Kingston style. But no, Brock Lesnar wanted to punish. He wanted to give Roman Reigns the welcoming ritual to the WrestleMania main event. So Brock Lesnar decided to beat his ass up even more. He decided to take him to the famous ad lib that we know today. Suplex City, bitch. Yeah. He continued to beat down on Roman Reigns. And no matter what Roman Reigns tried to do to get back on offense, Lesnar was unfazed. And Roman Reigns was even smiling too. And people were pissed that he was smiling. They were pissed at anything Roman did. And they were happy with whatever Lesnar was doing. It was like that odd of a scene. And I was kind of indifferent on it. I was pretty indifferent on what was happening because like if Lesnar won, okay, cool. But I mean, if Roman Reigns won, okay, cool. But yeah, I was expecting a riot if Roman won. So yeah, Reigns' main event welcoming ritual, it continued on for about 10 more minutes as the gloves eventually came off from Brock Lesnar after Reigns kicked out of a second F5 somehow, some way. And yeah, the crowd was starting to grow uneasy as Lesnar was about to pound the pudding out of Roman Reigns even more. Yeah, Reigns smiling and pissing off Lesnar was again something I didn't pick up watching live, even though we had like a video screen on the top of Levi's. Yeah, I somehow didn't pick that up. I was like dead set focused on the ring. Yeah, that's just how my natural instinct was. But anyway, yeah, Reigns smiling and pissing off Lesnar ended up playing a role sooner than I thought, because after he kicked out of a third F5, Lesnar threw Roman out of the ring and looked to bloody him through the ring post. But Roman did that to him instead. So yeah, Lesnar was the one that ended up being bloodied. And well, that started to piss off the crowd. The crowd knew what was coming. They knew the inevitable was coming. I knew the inevitable was coming because Roman began to rally, and he pretty much got the only offense that he got in this match. 3 Superman punches, 2 spears to take down Lesnar for a very close 2 count. Yeah, that's pretty much all of Roman Reigns' offense in this match. And Reigns tried to go for another Superman punch, only to receive another F5 from Brock Lesnar. And fortunately, he couldn't cover Roman because of the blood loss. Now, we have to pause at this point because I made a sign. I also told myself this, that you remember a certain person that would get the last laugh. Seth Rollins. I told myself, and I even made a sign, that Seth Rollins was going to cash in at the end of the night. And I'm not sure what it said, but he's going to somehow, some way become the WWE champion at the end of the night. Like, I don't know why I made that sign, but I don't know. I was just weird. I was just making random ass signs. My brother actually told me he's going to cash in during the match, before the match happened. And then right on cue, Seth Rollins' music comes out. He starts running and then starts to begin to execute the heist of the century as Lillian Garcia announces that this match is now a triple threat. I love my brother, but I also hate him at the same time because he got that call right. I'm like, damn you, but I love you so much. I can't believe you called that right. So anyway, we saw the photo finish of one of the best WrestleMania moments of all time. Seth hitting Lesnar with the curb stomp, and he tried for a second one, but he got caught with an F5 attempt, but Roman came back in to hit him with the spear, hit Lesnar with the spear, but he received the curb stomp for his troubles. And 1, 2, 3, Seth Rollins stole the WWE title from both Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns on that March 29th, 2015 night to close out WrestleMania 31. As the sea of fireworks started exploding, we were all celebrating. I took a selfie, and what a way to close out this first ever WrestleMania I attended. And from a match perspective, this is probably the best outcome of a bad situation, because had Reigns won at the time, like I said, I wouldn't have minded it, but fans would have burnt down Levi Stadium. They would have, they would have started grabbing pitchforks and torches and then said, fuck you, Jed York. We don't care about your damn stadium. It's like Roman Reigns won the WWE Championship as we didn't want him to, and we're going to burn this place down, pal. We don't care what the city of Santa Clara says. We're burning it down, pal. But had Brock Lesnar won, they still would have burned it down. But it's funny. It's interesting, too, that Roman Reigns mentioned it himself years later on the A&E biography documentary that he wasn't ready for that spot. He didn't want that spot quite yet because, he didn't have the preparation for it. But Vince forced him into that spot. So I guess in essence, losing this title match in a way that he did, it started his journey back there. Although it still wasn't exactly the best, in my opinion. So yeah, we were all going crazy that night. Seth cashing in was a very awesome capper to my first ever WrestleMania. And I was like, man, I got to witness so much on that day. WrestleMania again, even though it was the Intercontinental title, the big RKO, Triple H versus Sting. I still hated the ending though. I still hate the ending. And then you got The Rock, and now you got The Undertaker, John Cena, and then you get this epic photo finish of the cash in. I don't know if this was the greatest cash in of all time, because obviously Edge doing it first will always remain special. But this is like, I still say this is one of the greatest WrestleMania moments of all time. The heist of the century and being part of it in the flesh, it's always something to remember. Now, I'll leave this match on one note. Like 10 years later, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are going to be in a match together again. This time with CM Punk in the fray. But if we're being honest with each other, I think that Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins should be facing just each other at this upcoming WrestleMania. Because if you honestly think about it, I know they had their Shield reunions in 2017 and 2019. And now some people say, like, oh, like, we've seen this match a couple times before already, but never at WrestleMania. Never at they never faced each other at WrestleMania. There's still a lot of untold story. Like, they've never like resolved the ending. How Seth practically sacrificed himself to help Cody finish the story, and Roman's hatred to Seth cost himself the end of his undisputed title reign. So, and also the fact that, you know, it's been 10 years. Like, by this point in time, when we get to this upcoming WrestleMania, it would have been over 10 years since Seth first cost Roman at a crack at his first world title. So, wouldn't this be a great way to finally cap off a very long blood feud? Don't you think? And put it inside like sane structure or something. Like put all that history into one big major match. And I know CM Punk, they could probably still address it in this triple threat, but man, doing it 1-on-1 on the biggest stage of them all, I mean, it sells itself. It really sells itself. Like, it really does. So overall, I know this rest review is pretty lengthy. It also talks about my experience with this WrestleMania in particular, and attending it live. I mean, what can I say, man? What else can I say I haven't said already? It was like so much fun. I had a great time being there in the flesh, and it's always a day that I want to remember, like every single time. Now, I rewatched this a few times after, and again, it never gets old because of the experience being there live. And for this review, you get to see I got to saw whatever what I missed from the WWE Network broadcast of it. Like I mentioned, there are a couple moves that I missed. I missed the John Gruden QB camp portion of it on the pre-show. So there's a couple things that I didn't see. Now, there were a couple things that didn't stick with me when I initially watched it live in person 10 years ago. But this WrestleMania still holds a dear place in my heart. And I honestly don't know where I would rank it, though. It's still a top 10 in my place. It's still a top 10 WrestleMania for me, though. I just don't know if it would be in my top 5, though. I don't know if it would be in my top 5. If we're being unbiased, because I can't be too biased just because I attended it. But if we were being biased, definitely be in my top 5, I guess. But from a general fan perspective, despite being considered as one of the worst Road to WrestleManias ever, and yeah, I guess I could still say that, it still stands as one of the best ever WrestleManias, and still remains as the last great WrestleMania. Because look at the WrestleManias that did follow after that. 32, 33, 34, 35. Way too long. And it eventually led to the 2-night WrestleManias that we're getting now. And while I really liked WrestleMania 39, it's just like, it's pretty long. It's just pretty long. And yeah, having the 2-night element, it's just like too much. It's just too much in my opinion. And like this was the last great like WrestleMania that had like a lot. It had it aside from the women's tag team match. I say everything on here. It felt like there wasn't really a lot of misses. There was a lot of hits. Most of the card was hits. So I highly recommend, highly recommend you all watch this one. If you're on a WrestleMania binge, whether you're rewatching some WrestleManias that you haven't seen in a long while, or you just need something to watch, or you're watching it for the first time, on your binge list. So absolutely highly recommend you check out this WrestleMania. It just turned 10 years old. And yeah, despite having one of the worst road to WrestleManias ever. And well, yeah, I highly recommend this. And even with it having one of the worst road to WrestleManias ever, it still clears this current road to WrestleMania that we're having now. And I stand by that. So if you made this far into the retro review, if you made this far into this episode of the podcast, which I appreciate that you did, let me know your thoughts on WrestleMania 31 10 years later. Let me know your takes. Let me know your opinions on WrestleMania 31. What was your favorite match? What was your favorite moment? Let's have a conversation about it in the comments on YouTube. Slide into the DMs on your memories of this WrestleMania on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna. And if you attended this WrestleMania, I know I'm holding it upside down, but if you attended this WrestleMania, let me know as well. And let me know your favorite memories, your favorite moments. Where'd you sit? Like, what was your experience like? Let's have a conversation about all those good things as well, because, man, if you attended that WrestleMania as well, I imagine it was certainly a day to remember for you. And if you went with others, certainly a day for pretty much all of you that attended as well. So anyway, this is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna, this very lengthy episode of the podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 260 of this icy yet spicy sports podcast. We are closing the lid on the Old Icebox for this special retro review of WrestleMania 31. And yeah, my experience going to this live 10 years later. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you made this far into the episode. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. And until the next one, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge for your takes on the world of sports. We'll be back to wrap up our 2024 NFL season recap month in the next episode. But until then, until that episode comes on, peace out.